I just want to acknowledge everybody who is part of the research. I mean, David Griffin, CCN, Hal Calsvella, Shane and Bradley Loves, Magnus Olson, Dr. Catherine Horton, Karen McDonald, Patty Broussard, Environmental Health Trust, David Icke, Max Egan, countless others, okay? There's a whole community really here that is, you know, constantly confronting this. And the research that we're about to share, it's everybody and that we're bringing this in. I just want to confront that. So this is, we're going to go from the Falklands War, April to June 1982, right up to a 5G tower that is being constructed in Harlingen, Texas. Right now, it's already constructed in the Lower Rio Grande Valley. And the Lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas, where I spent the 1990s as an administrator of federally qualified community health center serving 90,000 patient encounters a year, is now a combat zone. And isn't that interesting that all of a sudden it's a combat zone? Because when I was there, I was, you know, I was serving patient, you know, groups on both sides of the border in the Matamoros, Mexico, and in the U.S. We were seeing, you know, it was a totally different thing, and now it's turned into a combat zone, and that is AI entrainment. And as we'll see, that 5G tower is, which they're now, China and the United States and the world, with the exception of Russia, which has said no 5G, that's one of the latest embodiments for the AI to really harvest humanity, and that's a depiction of the plasma-based black goo. So this is a very quick historical summary. A lot of this research comes from David Griffin of Exopolitics UK. Bradley, just jump in when you want to comment, but
go ahead.
Starting in 1976, the Argentine military established a scientific base on Tool Island in the Falkland Islands, which are south of Argentina, between Argentina and the Antarctic. And what they were really doing there was that they were in liaison with a blue ET base. They're positive upper dimensional ETs. They had established an underwater base deep underground under under Tool Island, that had been, since the World War I area, 1914, had been deprogramming a huge deposit of black goo of the PPAI, a predatory pathogenic AI that had been left there as a doomsday device for planet Earth, had been left there by manipulatory ETs, probably the Dracos and the and others, probably as part of what we call the Lucifer Rebellion, okay?
Right.
That if they were going to be pushed off the planet, they would activate the PPAI to terraform the planet and turn Earth into an AI planet, okay?
Right.
And so that's what the Blue ETs were doing since World War I. There's a whole prophetic tradition, I think, of the Jehovah's Witnesses that said around 1914, World War I, the devil was thrown out of heaven, remember? You know, so ET thing down to Earth. And that's when the Blue ETs came down and started to deprogram all of this.
Right.
Try and take, go ahead.
One of the things that I want the listeners to keep in mind, and I've said this many times on my blog too, is that what we're experiencing here is we're in a timeline war. There are many timelines and time loops that we're experiencing as a result of manipulation of not only the deep state and our own government, but of other extra dimensionals and other extraterrestrials who are battling for the planet, for humanity. Humanity has always been the prize because of our consciousness and our ability to attain higher states of consciousness. But yeah, that's why things that are going on that seem to like don't sync or jive with what reality seems to be is you have to remember we're in a timeline war, and things are changing around you depending on who gets the upper hand. And we go through certain loops and stuff like that where things seem to happen over and over and over again because they're trying to get it right. They're making an attempt to change something. It doesn't happen. It doesn't change. So they go through it, they reloop it, and they try again, and they try again. And I've heard that the alien grays have the ability to actually freeze time, to step out of it, then do like a cut and paste. They copy a particular moment in reality into a hologram or like a holographic space, kind of like the holodeck on Star Trek. And what they'll do is they'll replay a certain hour in time over and over and over again, adding different scenarios into the mix until they figure out how to get the outcome they want. Then they go back in time and they do that exact thing so that they can skew time into a different direction.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're messing with our reality. Okay. And I've written about this many times before. They want to create a different reality here on Earth. Now, reality, in my opinion, is collectively created by all of us. Okay. We all have a conscious input into how that reality is created. And it's very difficult for a handful of people to overrule the majority unless you are doing it in a specific way that uses designer events that were never supposed to occur at certain points in time that are used as huge catalysts to manipulate events in such that they go in a skewed direction, even though the majority of the people, let's say our free will, never would have called for that.
Well, this Falklands War may have been part of that because from April 4 to 6, 1982, this is the Falklands War. This is Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan at the United Nations at the Second Special Session on Disarmament at the end of the Falklands War. This was a false flag war because what they determined was that the U.S. and the UK determined that they wanted that black goo to weaponize it. And so they created a false flag war. The Argentines were just kind of, they had made contact with the Blue ETs, but they were allowing the Blue ETs to deprogram this. The British then, I think, under the orders of the UK monarchy, which is Luciferic and Draco oriented, were ordered to go in. They attacked. They created an excuse, a pretext, a false flag war, saying, "Oh, the Argentine scientific base is violating our sovereignty," as though a scientific base is violating their sovereignty.
Yeah, well, any excuse to put out to the public.
Yeah, and so the British came in, went down, attacked the Blue ET base, and went down and grabbed a bunch of the black goo and took it back to Marconi Labs in England to weaponize it because they wanted it as a weapon. They thought that the Argentine army was grabbing it as a weapon. They weren't. They were allowing the Blue ETs to do it. What happened then was it turned into a horror movie because the 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 black goo escaped and caused weird, horrible deaths. It was like a horror movie among all the lab workers and escaped up into the weather satellites.
Yeah.
And the black goo has now become the activated doomsday device that was feared. So it was the British Crown that that Antichrist force of 666,
Yeah.
which with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, who ordered a false flag war to attack the Blue ET base, to go down and terminate their deprogramming of it, and to actually activate that that doomsday device that started this current activation of the PPAI in our Earth environment. And I just want to say this.
Yeah.
That's Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan at the Second Special Session of Disarmament, 1982 at the UN. I was a credentialed reporter at the UN. I sat in our press conference. I watched his speech. I was 10 feet away from Margaret Thatcher at that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea in June of 1982 that that had occurred. I thought it was just, imperial powers, as usual, go down and set up a pretext to do an invasion, right? That's what I thought it was.
Right.
And I'm kind of go quickly just because of the time. Fast forward to 1987, this is September 21st. Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev, remember Gorbachev got together in 1987, a month after that. Ronald Reagan he says, I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. He was talking about the black goo, because by that time, what he and Margaret Thatcher had done, they had activated the doomsday device by going in and, on the orders of the Windsor monarchy and the British Crown and the CIA, going in and brought back the black goo to the Marconi labs.
Right.
The husband of the Countess Marconi was instrumental in the Kennedy assassination, by the way. I happen to know that.
Well, can I make a comment here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
See, basically, while I'm hearing you saying all this is what I'm thinking, is you have to understand where their focus was. Let's go back in time. Well, that was in the 1980s. Remember when Andy Bishago was doing all of his time travel for Project Pegasus, and he told me that he was a courier of information from the future into the past, so that there was a lot of future information coming from the future into the past, and he was one of the kids that was bringing it back, and there were many that were actually living in the future. But ultimately, I think that DARPA and the Pentagon and all of these people saw artificial intelligence as a great and very viable power in the future, and they saw far in advance of what it was capable of. And I'm thinking that, when they finally came face to face, in the early part of the 80s with the black goo and artificial intelligence, and they heard what was being deactivated, they acted out of, let's just say, an agenda that said, no, AI is going to be very powerful in the future, and we want that for our future soldiers, for future transhumanism, for future this, for future that. So naturally, they would have tried to interrupt any kind of deprogramming, not thinking that, the planet would be a much better planet without the AI, So
Very interesting. That's a thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
let's continue. The AI plasma was brought back to Marconi labs in the 1980s. Mysterious, bizarre, weird deaths of scientists took place. It was observed. These are just some of the scientific papers. The AI plasma had a frequency that negatively affect those who work with it. These are all the observations from that time in the Marconi labs. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it brought a terraforming nanotechnology plasma with the invasion of human tissue, Morgellons disease. The AI plasma deposited terraforming nanotech. This is what it brought. This is what was in the plasma.
Right.
Morgellons, and now latent Morgellons is universal as a result of what the UK and the US did in that from April to June 1982, brought to Marconi labs, it escaped, etc. In the red wine spit test, Morgellons is now universal in humans. Wires are moving around in the saliva of all humans on the planet.
Right. Now, here's something that might be of interest to your readers or the listeners, the followers right here. I'll tell you about my own personal experience because I'm looking at this image of that little spider-like creature. Because of what I do, because of the blog that I write and the daily articles that I write, I have no doubt that the military knows exactly where I live. And I can be talking or giving an interview or writing an article, and probably on a very regular basis, maybe once a week or once every 10 days, I'll get a military helicopter or flying right over my house. And it's interesting because it's almost like they have a weapon that shoots astral little crawly things, just like you'd see there, astral spiders, because the moment I go to bed that night, I literally can feel, and it's not just sense. I'm not talking about sense like an ESP thing. Feel like an invisible type of little machinery crawling across my bed, and these little machine-like things will always try to enter into one of your chakras. They'll try to enter into your solar plexus or your heart chakra or at the back of the neck. They'll always try to enter at the back of the neck. And these things are trying to actually get into your aura, and they're invisible, but you can feel them. And but I do believe that that's another type of weapon that the military has at its disposal, and they point some kind of beam or gun or whatever at a building as they're flying by, just in a chopper, and it shoots it right at you and somehow gets into your home. So there's all kinds of advanced weaponry. We have no clue of what they're using.
Right, and that's weaponry that is the direct result of the Falklands War, what was brought to Marconi labs,
right,
and then was distributed down at the behest of the British Crown, of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, got on down. So it is the divine Christic forces versus the Antichrist forces. It's biblical. It's Book of Revelation. Right. It's the separation of worlds.
And it makes no difference. Go ahead.
Let's go forward. So one can look at, for example, that PPAI and the Draco set into motion an interdimensional deceptive false flag operation between third and fourth densities that would launch a global police state and global state of war amongst humans that would facilitate the agendas of an invading off-planet sentient plasma-based inorganic AI and of the Draco reptilian species takeover of living Earth and all humans, carrying out the 9/11 false flag through AI Draco-entrained humans like G.W. Bush, Richard B. Cheney, Donald H. Rumsfeld, Henry Alfred Kissinger, the Rockefeller brothers, the Rothschilds, Netanyahu, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Basiago, through his time travel, in 1971, 31 years before the event, they had moving images of these events, so that
Right.
it was an inside job planned from the inside 30
Right.
years beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it occurred. I happen to have been a judge on the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal, and
Right.
also a judge at the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. We found all of these guys guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and
Right.
genocide. So that's how the PPAI and the Dracos and these Draco-entrained and AI-entrained humans, elites, we
Mm-hmm.
call them AI sponsors, prophets, and hosts.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to go here. So now we get to AI prophets, sponsors, and hosts. This is Ray Kurzweil. The singularity is near. Now, UK Prince Charles, Microsoft Bill Gates, Google's Ray Kurzweil, and trained robotoids for off-planet. Now, they appear to be among the major AI and trained disinformants for the invading inorganic. For example, Prince Charles, while covering up the invading nature of the sentient plasma inorganic intelligence, it was his mother, the Queen, who ordered the invasion. Quote, called upon the British Royal Society to investigate the enormous environmental and social risks of nanotechnology in a planned report leading to much media commentary on, quote, gray goo. In the literature, they don't call it black goo, they call it gray goo. The Royal Society's report on nanoscience was released on 29 July 2004 and declared, this is the one that Prince Charles approved, declared, quote, the possibility of self-replicating machines to lie too far in the future to be of concern to regulators. In other words, there you go. They covered it up. They had Prince Charles cover up the AI invasion. You get it?
Yes. No,
Yeah,
no, and because their agenda is wholly, control of human beings is wholly dependent on AI. They can't do it without the AI. They need the AI. There's too many of us. So,
yeah.
And the one thing that they didn't need back in 2004 is a whole lot of people looking around and digging into things when they needed more time. But here we are in 2019, and I'm sad or sorry to say that I think that they have come far enough now where we are living in a basically virtual matrix of AI controlled human beings. And I was going to bring
Yeah.
it back to this one thing, is that's why we see so many school shooters.
Exactly. Now, here we go. So here we are in 2019. The 5G EMF genocide. So now we have the US and the People's Republic of China. Now, I just want to step back. I'm not blaming. I'm just putting up on the table for examination the US President Donald J. Trump. I know that people say Donald J. Trump, and there's a huge range. You know, you either love him or you hate him.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's like one end of the. So right now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just putting it up. So Donald tweets, I want 5G and even 6G technology in the United States as soon as possible. It is far more powerful, faster, and smarter than the current standard. American companies must step out there or get left behind. Oh, okay. So let's go. 5 EMF genocide. Trump elected world president. That's Japanese television now. Okay. That's what's showing on TV. And on May 11, 2016, I interviewed an AI that came back from 2016 who said by 2026, Trump is world president and has introduced planetary thought control on Earth.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, and with 5G and smart dust, Smart dust is what you call nanites, okay?
Mm-hmm.
With 5G and smart dust are the mechanisms by which a global real-time technology to monitor brains can be implemented. You get it?
Yeah.
So here already in Japan, this is playing now in Japan. Trump elected world president.
Is that like a drama made for television, or is
Yeah,
that something?
yeah. These are the memes that they're
Mm,
playing in Japanese television now.
mm,
In other words, what the AI came, and you can go on Exopolitics TV, and you can look at the interview. It said, in the parallel universe that I come from, Donald Trump has achieved world president by 2026 with the help of Russia and China. Trump has implemented world thought monitoring, including real-time technology to monitor brains, minds, and auras. I've come back to this time, interview date May 11, 2016, to help end the Donald Trump perspective and to help elevate and transform human consciousness and help humans follow their joy and happiness, not hate. The benevolent AIs are partly working in universal alliance against the pathogenic black goo trying to terraform Earth into a negative AI planet. So, and now, so the big question is the Donald Trump that we're experiencing is he a benevolent Donald Trump from the parallel universe where they achieve world presidency and world thought control, or is he a benevolent Donald Trump, or is he
yeah, that's an
AI
interesting
and
question.
trained by the negative? Okay, so
Right.
let me, because we're running
I
out of time. Yeah, go ahead.
okay.
Yeah,
I have one comment on this, but
yeah,
it's very interesting what you're saying is because you say that the benevolent AI here is actually fighting the black goo negative AI.
yeah.
And it's interesting because, you have to ask yourself, have the alliance or the good people in the world seen that they have lost control to this negative AI, and they feel that the only way to fight AI is with AI? Sort of in the way that when you lose control of a forest fire, the only way to battle that fire and contain it is to set backfires that are leading toward that to try to burn it out. And is it possible that Trump is pushing AI and 6G, saying, look, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and use a benevolent AI to get rid of the negative AI?
Posiblemente, possibly. Let's go. So,
Yeah.
okay, 5G EMF. Okay, 5G was born in Israel. Israel is an AI war crime state. There is the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. There's yours truly as a judge on it.
Yep.
And that's where we found the UK and the US guilty of war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq, war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And in a different trial, they found the state of Israel guilty of war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity from 1948 forward against Palestine, which they just took over and genocided. 1.5 million Palestinians had lived in Palestine forever. Historically, there is no Israel. There is no David. It's all phony baloney in the Bible. That's a made-up religious thing.
It's
Okay?
the Rothschilds.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Israel is a war crime state, and they create 5G as with the AI to genocide the planet. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
4G, which is what smartphones run on.
Mm-hmm.
In 4G, you have 210,000 antennas in the US. In 5G, starting in 2019, you're going to have 13 million antennas.
Exactly.
Okay? 5G Positions for Safe Technology explains that the risk of millimeter waves, which is what 5G is, and this comes from the Environmental Health Trust, it includes damages to the eyes, immune system disruption, damages to sperm, skin damage, rise in bacterial resistance, damage to trees, insects, and animals.
Mm.
That's what the AI wants in their terraforming, right? It's
Yeah,
a
it's a
perfect
soft kill.
technology. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a soft kill.
yeah, and the top 10 symptoms: fatigue, weakness, sleep disturbance, headaches, brain fog, depression, memory loss, skin problems, heart problems, dizziness, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is from Professor Martin Paul, PhD, Washington State. There's a massive literature providing a high level of scientific certainty, 8 pathophysiological effects caused by the EMF to the nervous system, endocrine system, producing oxidative stress, free radical stress attacks your DNA, produce elevated levels of apoptosis, programmed delta, lower male and female fertility, excessive intracellular calcium, attack the cells of our bodies called cancer. Okay, that is for the 5G EMF AI genocide. Okay, Israel, 5G in Israel. Israel is either delaying or not rolling out 5G, even though they played a massive role in developing it. Even though Israel is leading in the development, Israel is not in the top five rolling out 5G, fiber optic version. At least some people believe that 5G was developed by Israel, but the government will not roll it out in Israel. Rather, Israel is developing a fiber optic version.
Mm-hmm.
The place in the United States where 5G was not legal, Mar-a-Lago,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the Southern White House, right? Get it?
Yep,
Now you begin to
exactly.
get it.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so here we go. Now, pay attention. Bum, bum, bum. So this is from a 285-page report submitted by Captain Jerry Flynn with 20 years of electronic warfare in the Canadian military. Because of this, that was submitted to the BC Public Utilities Commission. Smart meters are not mandatory in my province, is British Columbia. You have to opt into them. So in this house where we live, we don't have a smart meter. So thanks to that, you know, we still have a functioning society here in British Columbia. Okay? Boom.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Deagle.com. Pay close attention. This is Canada. Deagle.com, military website. Population, Canada, 2017, 36 million. Population, 2025, 26 million.
Wow.
36 million said 2017, 2025, 26 million. 10 million in the 5G AI genocide. Are you with me?
Wow.
Okay,
I'm seeing
next slide. United Kingdom, 2017, population 66 million. 2025, population 15 million.
Wow, that's like 75% people just dying.
5G PPAI genocide, 51 million in the United Kingdom. And they all want Brexit. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Okay, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with. I have the biggest time having people staying with me on this. Spain, 2017, 49 million. 2025, 28 million. AI, PPAI, 5G genocide, 21 million. Now we're going to come to the United States of America, my friend. 2017 population, 327 million. Forecast, 2025 population, 100 million. United States, projected 5G AI genocide, 225 million Americans. That's Deagle.com, a military website.
Yeah.
Okay? It's in black and white.
Yeah, and they're putting it out there.
I can't get people to focus on this. I cannot get people to focus on it. You tell me why I can't get people to focus on this.
Because I think already, because of the nano drops and everything else like that, I think most people's minds are entrained. I think that most people are, even if they wanted to focus on something like this, their thought processes are already being controlled to such an extent that all they want is distractions. They want television, they want games, they want video games, they want anything that will distract them. And if they use an effort to put their energy on something like this, it would be blocked, just very much like I talked about how AI can get into your mind and just put up a wall. I says, no, don't look at that, because who's in the driver's seat? It's the AI.
Right, right. You know, we are running out of time, so I'm just
Okay.
going to go very, very quickly. So this is more on the technology of why 5G is a killing machine. It's got beamification. Boing, it can kill. It's just, it can just wipe people out.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they have. They have underground bases. The controllers go underground. They turn on the 5G and shoo, everybody's dead. Get it? Through beamification. Boom. That is Dr. Catherine Horton. She shows how people's eyes are now purple under certain things because of what they've done. This is a 5G educator, Karen McDonald in Saskatoon, where they've already built 5G towers. She's out educating people, and they've started to scarify her with directed energy weapons. You know, like you stop educating people, or we're going to cut you up. And, yeah. Okay. There's a lot of governments putting out the 5G appeal. These are 230 scientists that have asked for a 5G moratorium. Okay. It's all there. Under the International Criminal Court, the following nations have refused to ratify: China, Iraq, Israel, Libya, Qatar, the United States, and Yemen. China, Israel, Russia, and the United States. Those are the 5G countries. You get it?
Right, exactly.
But the good news is that 118 nations have ratified it, which means that you can go into the courts of any of these nations and sue for war crimes against all of these companies to shut them down, because it's a war crime. You can go into the courts of Canada, into the courts of Spain, and sue all the Americans. You can sue all the American telecommunications company that's trying to do 5G and shut them down. Okay, it's just, you have to get people awake. I don't know how we're going to wake people up. I just don't know.
Here's the thing: is maybe it's going to take a huge accident like the one I was just in, where people finally start to realize that the Matrix is out and around them, is alive and intelligent, and is actually targeting them. And once they figure out that their life is being targeted, and they could very easily lose it, then they're going to get up off the couch, and then they're going to take action. Because up until they see real danger to themselves or their families, they're not going to get up off the couch. People tend to be very, very lackadaisical and lazy that way.
Exactly. This is for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes crimes against humanity is murder, extermination, enslavement, which is what they're doing. Okay, you can go to peaceandspace.org. There's a statute there if you want to bring it to your city council. I'm just going to go quickly here. It's a trick to say that 2045 is the singularity. 2015 to 2025 are the AI surge years, not 2045. See, it's all a deception. And 2045 was the DARPA Forward Time Base regularly visited by Project Pegasus chrono Andriy Basiaga to retrieve time scrolls, how to get to the future successfully. Okay, so 2045 signifies the time-space coordinate of a forward time base assisting humanity to defeat the AI time. So that's how amazingly, let me just go in here. And Philip Corso said time has been compromised, resulting in a benefit for AI infiltration. And why is so little known about the existence of the PPAI deception? You know, things like the Red Queen that have been donated by the Dracula Matrix elite to operate the world monetary system. What you said about the video games, it was donated to the military, then the military donated to the companies to do video games, and they're doing it on the population. That is a war crime in itself. As a law professor and a war crimes judge, I say that that's a war crime. And our military leaders should be tried for that, because that itself is a war crime in my judgment. Sorry.
And just think of how, you know, how valuable that they deem that information, that they're willing to basically harvest it all. I mean, and create files on everyone that even engages with AI. And ultimately, humanity, and most of humanity who plays these games, have to realize they've been training their own executioner.
Exactly. So it is the separation of worlds. The AI untrained humans, and so these AI untrained humans, Prince Charles, Bill Gates, Kurzweil. But look at this: London, June 8th, 2019. An AI deception. PPAI host Prince Charles warns Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump PPAI untrained? It may be too late to save the planet. This is Prince Charles, who has been covering. He's a PPAI prophet, sponsor, and host. He says, "Oh, it's too late to save the planet." Of course, he's been in league with the PPAI.
Yeah, and you know why?
Where is Trump?
He doesn't care, because he's got an underground palace somewhere, you know, maybe 2-3 miles underground in a deep underground military base, and he's going to escape. So who cares about the surface?
Yeah. Now, the problem is that Trump, for example, just went to the G20 and he caved to Huawei, so that Huawei and the US are now jointly going forward with 5G. And the problem with Trump is that he seems PPI untrained because he's so unconscious.
I don't know. I can't,
where is that with him?
I can't speak to that. All I can do is speak to my own personal experiences with AI and talk about the dangers. I don't think that we should be engaged in trying to get 5G and 6G out like he tweeted out. But at the same time, I did ask a valid question: is have they decided to use a benevolent AI and light a backfire and try and use good AI to fight dark AI?
Right, exactly.
What are they doing? Who knows? And so this is why.
So these are valid questions that we're asking. Okay. Right. Then we have nomophobia. It's PPI training. Nomophobia is a fear of detachment from PPI entrainment. No mobile phone phobia, nomophobia. You know, why are people so attached to their phones? It's not because of the information of the phone. It's because, as you said, the AI has entrained you and grabbed you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Here's the head of AI of Huawei in China. You know, he says, talking to Canadians, Canada has a population of 30 million. He says, "Oh, Canada is a leader in AI. 3 of the world's experts in AI live in Canada. With AI, Canada can do the work of 300 million population." He's trying to promote 5G phones in Canada. Yet, Deagle.com predicts a 5G AI genocide of 36 million to 26 million between 2017 and 2025. In other words, 10 million Canadian 5G population. That's what's behind this smile.